Right, we're on to game week 19 of the Premier League predictions. You know the drill. We're going to be going through every single game in the game week 19 and predicting the scores for all of them. Let's get into it. On to West Ham versus Southampton, and I'm actually going to say an unpopular opinion, but I genuinely think that Southampton can get something out of this. Southampton, of course, they're 15th right now. Not the best. But then again, you look at West Ham. They've had great form recently, but they've just dropped off out of the top four, you know, losing to Arsenal. And that shows maybe, just maybe, they're not ready to be in that top four. Southampton, historically, against like good teams, they do score a big amount. I mean, they scored 2 against Leicester just a couple game weeks ago. They obviously beat Man City a couple years ago. They've beaten Liverpool last season, I believe, and they scored 2 goals against us last season. So it's definitely going to be a challenge for West Ham defensively, but I do think they'll have it sorted because recently the goals from Southampton have been just terrible. They're clearly missing Ings. I mean, I shouldn't really talk about it seeing as he left in the summer, but they haven't fixed the situation. They're going to have to rely on Borja, I think that's how they say his name, the Chelsea loanee. West Ham have sort of the same problem, only in recent games. I mean, Antonio, Bernardo have been really quiet. Bowen's been getting a lot of the goals. Just Southampton, they don't have the players right now, and it's not their fault. I think they relied on Ings way too much last season, and that's what's going to sort of be the killing factor for them losing this game. And that's why I'm going to say a 3-1 win to West Ham with 2 Bowen goals and a Antonio screamer. I'm going to say it. On to Tottenham versus Crystal Palace, and no one's really been talking about Crystal Palace recently, but Tottenham, they've actually had very, very good form. They've won their last 3 games, other than their latest one, which was a 2-2 with Liverpool. Kane obviously got a goal. He had about 5 really, really good chances where he should have buried, so that's a bit worrying for Spurs fans, but I definitely think he's able to come back on form. I mean, a player of his stature, he's definitely not lost it, especially at this age. Palace, they have players like Gallagher. I really, really like him. He's in my FPL team. There's no way you're going to see me sell him. But I do think that players like him actually maybe have a chance against a team like Tottenham. I'm going to say 1-1. Gallagher goal and Kane goal for Spurs. On to Manchester City versus Leicester City. And Leicester, they've actually picked up form recently. Of course, they've had that really dry spell where it's like, what is going on with them? They're such a boring team to watch. But over the last couple games, they've picked it up. I mean, especially, I do want to talk about this guy, James Maddison. Of course, I'm still buzzing that we didn't sign him for 70 mil. But the guy's been on decent form, so I've got to give it to him. But Manchester City, do you know what I mean? There's a player in every position that is 10 times the player Maddison's in it. 7-0 against Leeds. What? 4-0 against not Manchester City, I was going to say Manchester City. 4-0 against Newcastle. So that's 11 goals in their last 2 Premier League games. I like Leicester City, but most of their problems have came from the defence, and that's why it is going to be a bloodbath out of there. I'm going to say 5-0 to Manchester City. João Cancelo getting another goal, and it will be another screamer. You heard it first. On to Burnley versus Everton, and I'm going to give this one the boring game of the week. I'm sorry, but it's 2 really boring sides. I'd say Burnley's a bit better than Everton in boringness, but still, they're both just bleh. As I did say in the last game week, Burnley, they get more draws than losses, so the fact that they're in the relegation zone, do not think of them as a relegation side. They play like a 10th place side. In fact, I'd argue that, of course, Everton, even though they are above them in the table by actually a big margin, seeing as Burnley are 18th and Everton are 14th, I would still say that Everton get way more losses than Burnley. It's sort of the other way round with Everton. They either get losses or they either get wins. Of course, the big question is about Tarkowski. Will he stay at Burnley? I don't actually think so. I would not be surprised if maybe like transfer deadline day he goes to West Ham. But then again, would you rather get something like 7.9 mil out of him, or would you just rather use him as another player to really help that relegation battle, I don't think it's worth selling him. I mean, if 7.9 mil or whatever is the price to get this guy to stay for half a season when you're in a relegation battle, it's worth it. I'm just going to say a boring 0-0 draw. I think that Richarlison will get chances, players like Gray and Townsend will, but they won't slot them home, and I definitely think Burnley will dominate the game. That's my prediction at least. Aston Villa versus Chelsea. Off Chelsea's current form, I actually think Aston Villa have a bigger chance of beating them than Chelsea do of Aston Villa. Of course, I can't forget the fact that Chelsea are 3rd and Aston Villa are 10th. So really, on paper, Chelsea should win this by actually a margin of goals. But I think the only team that really has goals in them at the moment is Aston Villa. Scored 2 against Norwich and have really been keeping their form up since Gerrard came in. In Chelsea's last games, they've drew to Wolves, drew to Everton, just beat Leeds by a penalty, drew to Zenit, lost to West Ham, only beat Watford by a goal, drew to Manchester United, and there's just some utterly horrible results. Chelsea, they're getting their goals from playmakers. They're getting their goals from defensive midfielders. They're getting their goals from defenders. You expect players like Kai Havertz to score. You expect players like Pulisic, Lukaku, Werner. They're not getting anything. I'm going to say 0-0 for the Aston Villa-Chelsea game. I feel like if I was to say that someone was to win by a margin, I think that would be a bit unrealistic. So I'm just going to go for the safe option that in the end of the day is hopefully going to get this prediction right. On to Brighton versus Brentford, and this might actually be an important game for both the sides. Really, you're kind of fighting for the upper mid-table spot. Brentford, of course, have players like Ivan Toney, they have Mbeumo and Sergi Canos, who usually gets them the assists, where Brighton, realistically, they have a Trossard, they have a Morpay. They don't always perform. They're a bit inconsistent, them two. Brighton, of course, are probably the better side, but Brentford, at the end of the day, from what we've seen of them this season, they get the goals, they play a really good attacking play style, and they know how to counter-attack, and that's just going to be the deadly factor. 1-0 from an Ivan Toney goal. On to the last game, the one I've been waiting for, and it's Newcastle versus Manchester United. Now, the last time we played Newcastle, we beat them 4-1, and it was, what a return for Cristiano Ronaldo, and hopefully we can see him back. With Newcastle, I feel bad for them because I feel like we are going to absolutely destroy them and they're going to go down to 20th. But I guess I can't be too harsh on them. We have known to be conceding stupid goals in stupid areas. And maybe players like John Joe Shelvey, Fraser, Wilson, they'll make the most out of that. I'm excited to see the Wan-Bissaka or Dalot versus St. Maximin. That's the one thing, that's the one player I'm actually really excited to see for Newcastle. 3-0 victory with a Ronaldo double and a Bruno Fernandes wonder goal. You heard it first. Thank you for watching. You guys know how much it means to me. Thank you for the support. Comment if you have not. And please subscribe. It's the fuel that makes me make more videos.